can you just talk briefly about the difference in damage? People, just to dispel rumors, that things that we hear, and one of our friends has a large adjustment firm, so he's kind of educated us on some aspects of the difference between commercial and residential, and how, they're like, well, I don't understand how this restaurant's open, and I don't understand how they can build and do, and just talk about there's differences of that on your side.
And the simple thing to think about there is nobody's living in a restaurant. Mm-hmm. It's not habitable property. So they're not under the same exact rules as a dwelling is. That's why a dwelling needs to be elevated above base flood to be code compliant. You can have retail and restaurants and offices, those types of things can be closer to ag grade. If they do waterproofing, and there's certain steps they can take, but there's nobody living inside of there, so they're not at the same kind of risk level.
Right. And there is according to our adjuster friend, you can get ICC money for commercial stuff. And he talked about, some of these areas like Louisiana, and there's certain places that just get flooded, more often than here.
Sure.
And he was talking about, some of these businesses, they may take the 30,000 ICC funds and move up their air conditioner, or do parts of it. The way that he sort of explained it to us was, the way that the government, the FEMA, the federal government thinks about it is, homeowners, there's like a certain bar, right? You don't have to be licensed to be homeowner. Anybody in this country can own a home. To have a business, there's certain things that you're doing. You're not forced to have a business. So there's a higher risk expectation. Therefore, you're able to forego other things because they're thinking, okay, hey, you took the risk to have a business, therefore you can understand it, versus homeowners. They don't want homeowners, being sold a bill of goods. They're protecting retail people, just like in lending, you have RELA and RESPA, or TILA and RESPA and things like that, where that might not apply to commercial lending. So it kind of seemed like it was along those same lines.
Right. Well, and there's different other there's business interruption insurance. There's, they can have different insurance for their contents on their TPP, their FF&E, versus their real estate. And so it's a little bit of a different animal, but I try to explain it mostly between the habitability.
Right. Makes sense.
And that's why I have different names.
Cool.
How did we, just question, when we looked, what Chad and I tried to do is we tried to understand, just in different areas, like this is the first time our area has been impacted like this, certainly in our lifetime, in a long time. We know that. But then from the standpoint of where, government officials are and trying to make these decisions, and you're getting hit with all this stuff, like it's new for you as well. Are there counterparts in other areas who have been affected like this, that there's like a round table of, hey, like here's your, here's kind of your group, your support group. Hey, Fort Myers, hey, whatever other areas have been impacted like this within our.
Yeah. I mean, we've got our recent colleagues that were affected in Collier, Charlotte, and Lee counties down south with Ian. So those are colleagues that I lean on, and we compare notes. And, we go to association events, but we pick up the phone, talk to each other, so and bounce things off each other. And we were actually from Lee County on up to Pinellas, we've been asked to participate in a roundtable, literally, at our January conference in Tallahassee for our Property Appraisers Association of Florida event. So about 5 or 6 of us are going to be sitting on that panel answering all those kind of questions.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear, because it's just challenging. All of us, we feel that this is the first time in, blazing new trails. And the reality is there's precedent that's set there. And sometimes that can be a little bit challenging to, well, it should really be this way, or it should be that way, and this is how we should do it. And it's like, well, this is what was learned in the storm before. This is what was learned in 10 storms before that. And this is where we're making these incremental changes. So,
But yet it's still a shifting landscape. It's always changing because technology has changed.
Yeah.
You know, the size of the event dictates, you know, what the proper procedure is. I've just since I've come in office, you know, my predecessor, she was in office. Well, she was in with the office, I think, for 17 years, and then was property appraiser for 8. They were ready to back up for damage assessment purposes all of that time, and they were never deployed. And then I came in 2017, and every year we've deployed for damage assessment since I've been there. Wow. So
maybe you're bad luck.
Yeah. Don't say that. But yeah,
we'll cut that out.
first year in was Irma. You know, so we had to deal with that. But where I was going is that each storm event we've had has been a different response because of the type of storm. So, you know, Irma was a wind event. You know, I was in the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center, with one of my deputies. And as soon as the winds dropped below 30 and like the sun was just coming up, and I said, come on, get in my truck. We're going out to look. And he was like, well, the roads are, I don't care. I need to see what kind of event we're dealing with, because we're locked up in this building with no windows, and you know, we can see some TVs and stuff, but the sun was just barely coming up. I said, I know where I want to go. I don't think we didn't have a storm surge event. I think it's all going to be wind. And I went out, and it turned out to be exactly what I thought. It was rotted out fences and tree limbs down, and you know, it looked like a bomb went off, but that's what it was. It was just all that debris had blown around. And then you go out and you have another event like Helene, and it was rising water. Nobody saw it coming. Really, you know, we've been warned, yeah, the storm surge could be this, but we've had that how many times? And now all of a sudden, boom, you know, it really happens. And that's a totally different deployment. You know, now you're just coastal, you know, you're looking at so we're diving into the data and the GIS systems and figuring out, here's our hot spots to target, you know, so you deploy very different. When it was the wind event, it's like, where are all the mobile home parks? Right. Those are the ones that are going to have the damage, you know, so it was trees, fences, and mobile homes. Right. Is where all the damage was. So those are the types of things you learn in going through those events and talking to your colleagues and giving them advice, because you'll get, you know, initially we were getting guidance from emergency management, and like after Irma, oh, we're going to do it by grid. We want you to do every grid and cover the entire county. And I said, no. I said, that's not what this event is. I said, it's going to be the mobile home parks, and then it's all fences and trees. And then you're going to have a tree down on a house here and there, and they're going to self-report. We can't go, and they wanted us to look at every single, all those 450,000, you know, structures throughout the county. So we don't have the manpower. We'll be doing this for forever.
Years. Yeah, we won't do any other work.
Right. Right. So it's like we have to strike where the need is, and so they finally they agreed, and that worked out well. And then the same thing with, you know, the flood events. We had events where, you know, they were trying to get us to go inland, and I said, no, it's coastal. You know, It doesn't make any sense. Then we had Milton, or even Debbie, the inland flooding from Debbie. Mm-hmm. You know, that was all inland stuff. None of it was coastal. Coastal was fine. It was all rain and uncleared drainage areas that, you know, caused overflows.
It's a weird county because the coastal flooding stuff isn't really affected by rain, right, as long as the tide's low.
That's right.
Right? But the inland stuff isn't affected by storm surge. You know, I remember leaving after Helene. You know, I live in North Reddington, Mike's, Indian Rocks Beach, and then going to the mainland after Helene. And it was like, I went to Starbucks the next day because we were staying with friends because our house was flooded. And it was just like business as usual, right? So it was like there was zero effect because it didn't get windy. But you come over back to the islands, and it's like, I mean, you couldn't even get back. We had to boat back, and there's mounds of sand on Gulf Boulevard, and it's like the tale of two cities almost. You know, it's an interesting thing for sure.
Yeah. So those are the kind of things that, you know, we've learned through our history. You know. Yeah. You know, being born and raised here, I've been through no-name storms and witnessed different events that have happened here that were bad, but never to this magnitude. And then sharing that information with our colleagues so that they can be better prepared. is very important.